Hello, I'm Charles Haskell, your worship associate for today. Memorial Day is a solemn commemoration of the million-plus men and women who have died in the military service of our country since the Revolutionary War. On this Memorial Day of remembrance, I'm going to share the story of my connection to military service. I was raised in a family of Seventh-day Adventists. Like the Quakers, my childhood religion was pacifist, with many of its members choosing to be conscientious objectors. However, the church did encourage its members to serve in non-combat positions, such as being a medic, nurse, or physician. My mother's father, Dr. Charles Curtis Renfro, was a military physician in World War I. He was decorated for saving lives in Germany while under fire with mortars and guns. Later in life, he required treatment at our local VA hospital for war wounds. He always projected respect and affection for the men and women in military service. He was proud of his service to his country, and he was welcomed home from war by a grateful nation. In the Second World War, my father and uncle served in the military medical corps. My father was part of the Normandy invasion and was in command of small hospitals in France in the occupation. He suffered no physical wounds, but his spirit was affected in a way that split my family well after his return to civilian life. He lost his religious belief, while my mother had hers intensified as she cared for two small boys. This schism resulted in irreconcilable differences and ultimately divorce. Despite this rift, my father was proud of his military service, and he was welcomed home by a grateful nation. I graduated from medical school in 1965, just as the war in Vietnam was heating up, and my colleagues and I were facing the draft. Having left the Seventh-day Adventist Church when I went to college, I was not eligible for conscientious objector status. I was advised by the chief of medicine at my medical school to consider meeting my military obligation by serving in the U.S. Public Health Service and doing research at the National Institutes of Health. I applied and was accepted and started as a clinical associate at the National Cancer Institute in 1967. While my classmates were facing bullets, napalm, and Agent Orange in Vietnam, I was doing cancer research in Maryland. My colleagues and I often referred to ourselves as the Yellow Berets. The closest we would come to combat would be service on an ice cutter, a Coast Guard ice cutter in the North Atlantic. When I left the Public Health Service, there was no welcome by a grateful nation, as experienced by my grandfather and father. In fact, Vietnam military veterans were reviled by many people in this country, and return was very uncomfortable. I have protested against war for many years. My late wife, Christine, and I were instrumental in establishing our church as a peace site in 1986. As much as I hate war, I've never hated the military itself, and I've cared for VA patients, mostly at our local VA hospital, for many, many years. I have 35 years of governmental service. During this time, I learned to play nicely with military veterans. As we commemorate on this Memorial Day weekend, returning veterans from the Middle East and Afghanistan, let us honor their service to our country and not revile them, as was the case after Vietnam. I think it is time that we consider military service among the many examples of diversity that make up our congregation. Come, military veterans and non-veterans alike, let us worship together on this Memorial Day weekend. More than 1 million men and women in our country have lost their lives during times of military conflict since the Revolutionary War. I light the chalice today in their memory. I also light the chalice as a reminder that we live in a time of ambivalence about military service. As UUs, I think it is time for us to become a welcoming congregation for men and women serving in the military, as well as military veterans. If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to join me in lighting your chalice in the spirit of welcoming military men and women and veterans into our beloved circle of diversity.
Get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. You don't need no ticket. You just thank the Lord. People get ready. There's a train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key. Open the doors and board them. There's room for all among those of the most.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Santa Monica. I'm Charles Haskell, your worship associate. The Reverend Kikanza Nuri-Robins and I and our entire worship team are delighted to be joining you in our online sanctuary this morning. If you are new to our community, please know that while our building is closed, our community is still open. There are many ways to learn more about us and become involved. We offer many programs to serve the needs of our congregation and to be of service to the larger world. If you're interested in learning more, join us for our visitor meetup after the service. Unitarian Universalism is not defined by creed or dogma, but is guided by principles that affirm the worth and dignity of every person and encourage an individual search for truth and meaning. We honor the wonder of existence and believe that we are all connected to each other and to the interdependent web of life. Our beliefs are drawn from scripture and science, nature and philosophy, personal experience, and ancient tradition. We are an open, affirming, and welcoming congregation. We are diverse in backgrounds, social locations, gender identities, ethnicities, sexual orientations, spiritualities, and philosophies of life. We are united in our desire to create a diverse, beloved community, to live the principles of our faith, and to serve the wider world. As we begin this morning, we want to acknowledge that our church building and the homes of most of our members are on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded land of the Tongva people. They lived here and cared for this land for thousands of years. We recognize and mourn the harm inflicted on the indigenous people of this country. We lift up their grace, resilience, and relationship with these sacred lands. I'd like to highlight 4 announcements this morning. First, the Forbes Hall entrance on Arizona Avenue is in need of repair. A resolution to authorize the funds needed for the repairs will be at the annual meeting. There will be a Zoom meeting at 11:30 today to discuss the details of this problem. Second, save the date. Our church will once again gather at our beloved UU camp at Bentonville Pines in the fall on September 17, 18, and 19. Stay tuned for details and ways to get involved. Third, on Saturday, June 5, there will be 2 Zoom-based memorial services. At 10 a.m., we will honor Allison Kendall's mother, who died in Arizona recently. At 1 p.m., we will honor the life of church member Leonard Adler. Leonard was a longtime member of the church with his late wife Elizabeth, and he is a past president of the congregation. Please join us today after the service for our Zoom coffee hour. There will be a number of breakout room options with different discussion topics, conversations, and opportunities to get to know one another more deeply. A link for our Zoom coffee hour will be present on our UUSM Facebook group page after the service. We look forward to meeting with you at that time. For more information about these activities, all our other church events, and ways to get involved, please visit our website at uusm.org or our newsletter at news.uusm.org.
The arching sky of morning glows like frescoes high in vaulted rolls. The ragged hills of greening spring like chorus masters bid us sing. The colors of
El amor es la enseñanza de esta iglesia.
Love is the doctrine of this church.
Buscar la verdad es su sacramento y el servicio es la oración.
The quest for truth is its sacrament and service is its prayer.
Vivir juntos en paz.
To dwell together in peace.
Buscar el conocimiento en la libertad.
To seek knowledge in freedom.
Servir a la humanidad en comunión.
To serve humankind in fellowship.
Así es como convenimos unos a otros.
Thus do we covenant with each other.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung through every land by every tongue.
Good morning. This morning we're continuing our collective story. Now, last week we discussed that what we wanted for this week were the motivations. So, why each group, our Cub Scouts and our Brownies, wanted what they wanted, right? We'd already set up our conflict. Both groups want to camp at the same campsite, right? But we needed motivations. And of course, y'all came through with the email traces, so we pulled some from the hat. So here's our story so far. Now, one long hot summer, a group of brownies was returning to their regular campsite at the foot of a giant magic tree. And this magic tree taught them all sorts of magic, growing magic and calming magic. And it was strategically located where they could walk down to the lake. There were just enough tents for them and their leaders. And it had been their tradition for decades and decades to camp at this campsite. Well, the Cub Scouts, on the other hand, used to camp somewhere else, but this is California. And unfortunately, their campsite was burned out. Their leaders had heard about this particular campsite, and they showed up with no warning or reservation, and they wanted to camp there. Now, this was obviously a problem because there were 12 tents for 24, 2 to a tent, brownies, and 2 tents for their leaders. Same, just enough for the Cub Scouts as well. 2 to a tent and their 2 leaders. And the Girl Scouts were like, nay, I say. We've been here for decades. We're always here. This is our magic treat. This is our walk to the lake. This is ours. We've been here first. And the Cub Scouts are like, yo, our campsite was burned out. Like, can't you just share and be nice and go somewhere else? We've had decades here. We've had no time here. And that's where we left the story last week. Our big conflict was they both wanted one thing, this campsite, but only one could have it. And as this argument escalated, came their motivations. Autumn, one of the smallest brownies, says, I'm sorry, but this is a nice, calm campsite. The tree teaches us nice things like growing and how to calm ourselves and how to swim like fish and how to climb. And frankly, we could hear you coming from 2 miles away. You're not calm. You're not quiet. You're going to destroy the serenity of this campsite if you stay. And we as the guardians of this campsite And everyone sort of looked at Autumn. Nobody signed up to be a guardian of this campsite, but she was on a roll. As the guardians of this campsite, we can't let you destroy the serenity of this place. Now, Adam, one of the Cub Scouts, was like, yo, nobody said that anyone was going to destroy the serenity of things. And frankly, we think it's unfair that you're implying that we somehow couldn't possibly adapt and learn from the tree too, and learn how to grow things. We want to stay because we also like the serenity, and we want to learn the magic, and we like the quick walk to the lake. Then Minnie, one of the older brownies, goes, look, also, fair is fair. We signed up for this campsite months and months in advance, as we've done for decades. There are rules. You have to follow them. Jody, one of the Boy Scouts, says, okay, but this is a special circumstance. Our campsite doesn't exist anymore. We signed up for ours too. This is the only campsite that's left that has any space. I mean, kind of space. You're here. You know what I mean? It's a special circumstance. Can't you understand that? Can't you show a little sympathy? And so on and so forth, back and forth between brownies and Cub Scouts, and the 4 Cub Scout leaders are watching this, and they walk away, and they lean against the magic tree, and the tree is magically still creating perfect shade at high noon. And they lean against it, and they go, we're the adults. We should probably fix this problem, right? Right? And they nodded. And they sighed. And they began to think. And that's the story so far. So now that we have gone through almost all of the parts of the story, right? We've got our setting, our people, our places, our things. We've got our conflict. Now we've had our motivations. Now we need a resolution. How do we solve the problem of the Boy Scouts, or well, the Cub Scouts and the Brownies both wanting to camp under this magic tree? So send me all of your ideas to resolve this conflict. I expect to have a full inbox, all right? I'll see you next week.
May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles
to sing awake the light and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night.
Life is filled with joys and sorrows. Without the sorrows, we wouldn't notice the joys. Because of the joys, the sorrows drive deeply into our hearts. We want to pause to remember that each of us is on a path, some filled with great joy, some filled with deep sorrows, all of which we share together because we are a community. Within this community, there are 3 things that I'd like to bring to your attention this week. One is the great joy that we had in the success of the Dining for Dollars. We are grateful to everyone who participated in what has been one of the most fun and most financially rewarding fundraisers of our church's activity. It's a fundraiser and a friend-raiser, and we are grateful that the Dining for Dollars team has been able to find a way for us to engage in the auction and all the fun that's involved in that in this virtual platform. There are other joys. People are getting out of their homes. People are going back to work. People are finding work. People are going to restaurants and able to visit with friends and family and just get out of the house after being locked in for such a long, long time. And so we are grateful for all of those things. And at the same time, we acknowledge that some people have no jobs to return to, that some people have spent all the money that they had and are not quite sure what's going to happen next, that some people are sick, some people have died because they were sick and we weren't able to get the help to them that they needed. And so in the midst of this season of spring and sunshine and anticipation of the summer, we also pause to recognize our losses and the pain and trauma that many of us have experienced and are experiencing. Next week, we're going to have 2 memorial services, one for a longtime member of this congregation, Lynn Adler, and another for the mother of a very active member of our congregation. Robin Kendall died some time ago, the mother of Allison Kendall. And so we hold in the light the families of Lynn Adler and Allison Kendall. We hold in the light the members of our Dining for Dollars team. We hold in the light all of the people in our community, our pastoral care team, our worship associates, all of the folks who've been working so hard, our church administrators, our developmental minister, who have been working so hard to keep our community together, healthy, functioning, and financially stable. We hold in the light each and every one of you with your personal joys and sorrows. And we pause in this moment to sit in silence together as we reflect and we share the love that only happens in community. Our reading this morning is from the Tao Te Ching. The particular passage that we're reading can be found in our gray hymnals. It is reading number 600, The Space Within. 30 spokes share the wheel's hub. It is the center hole that makes it useful. Shape clay into a vessel. It is the space within that makes it useful. Cut doors and windows for a room. It is the holes that make it useful. Therefore, profit comes from what is there. Usefulness from what is not there. Lao Tzu. Do you ever wonder why shared leadership is so hard? It sounds like a good thing to do. It's connected to almost every one of our UU principles. Sharing implies that we can all teach and learn from one another. Shared leadership recognizes that we each have a responsibility for the ministries in our congregations. Sharing is a great way to get people involved in the work of our beloved community. And still, many of the ministries at the district and national levels are in response to the problem we have with shared ministries. We have healthy congregation teams. We have the process of right relations. We have healing circles. We have trauma-informed care. I've been a consultant to churches for most of my professional life, and I've seen some very interesting things done in the name of shared ministry. As much as I enjoy the work of bringing disparate groups together, helping to distinguish between hurt and harm, trauma and general annoyance, dismantling cultures of fear and blame, using the lens of equity to identify the overuse of power and privilege and the assertion of one's right to be mediocre, I would much rather we all just get along. The idea of shared leadership got me thinking about why it is so difficult for people to play nicely. And I came up with 4 things that undermine this goal. Confusing welcomes, binary thinking, a surface understanding of diversity, and misunderstanding the concept of forgiveness. So I'm going to go through those 4. Before I start on confusing welcomes, I want to give gratitude and appreciation to our membership committee because they are working very hard to change this paradigm. So what I am about to say is not an indictment of our committee. It is a description of what many membership committees in churches across denominations do. We welcome people to our churches in very confusing manner. With one hand, we give newcomers a personal chalice, and with the other hand, we give them a list of committees, not so they can be nurtured and grow spiritually, but so they can sign up to work. And then we ask them to write a check. We ask people to work and give money without giving them something. People don't come to church to work. They come to church for community. They come to church for a place to belong, for a safe space to grow. They will work for these kinds of places if their needs for belonging are met. But even before a new family has decided where they're going to sit in the sanctuary, we bully and flatter and guilt people into doing things they really don't want to do. Welcome, come work is not a very friendly welcome. If you came to my house and I passed you a mop or asked you whether you would rather clean the kitchen or the bathroom, you probably wouldn't come back. In work, some people say you will find community. Well, not always. Some people need to be nurtured first. Binary thinking. Binary thinking is a major problem in the Western world, particularly for baby boomers. We've been taught to think in opposites. Things are either up or down, or in or out, or left or right, or male or female. We even talk about the opposite sex. Binary thinking presumes the world is concrete and finite and knowable and black and white, which makes sense when we remember that we, baby boomers, were raised with black and white TV that had only 3 stations, all of which stopped broadcasting at midnight. A very finite world. And there was only one way to turn on an electric typewriter. We never even thought about computers. Now we live in a world of unlimited options and possibilities. And yet we long for what used to be, and we dig in our heels saying we never did it that way before, which keeps us from moving forward. We move, but movement is not necessarily progress. We change, but change is not always growth. Number 3. We have a surface level understanding of diversity, and we are comfortable in just looking at diversity on the surface. We advocate for diversity, but we focus on the wrong things. We are great with what we look like, who we love, which pronouns we use. We are not so great with how we think, what we value, and the approaches that we take to decision making and problem solving. And we are horrible at the meaning of the intersectionalities of all our identities. We act as if we all value the same things with the same priorities. UUs are so far ahead of the general population in embracing the voiceless and the invisible and the oppressed. We often miss the many microaggressions that we inflict upon one another. We miss the difference that differences we cannot see make. And we neglect to make spaces large enough to hold all of our diversity. Number 4, misunderstanding the concept of forgiveness. And I'm going to circle back around to talk about some solutions to these things. So be patient. Because of our differences, and the differences make a difference in unexpected ways, we are sometimes painfully reminded that it's impossible to be around humans without getting our feelings hurt at least once. Our society encourages us to forgive the people who harm us. Forgiveness is useful, but it is often confused with reconciliation. Reconciliation involves someone understanding they have transgressed in some way, and then they offer an apology and work to make amends. Forgiveness is not a blessing to be bestowed upon others. It has nothing to do with who harmed you. It is a process that frees us, frees you from staying stuck. It doesn't mean that you weren't wronged in some way. It means that my bad behavior will not stop you from doing what is right and good for your community and for yourself. Jonathan Lockwood Huey says we should forgive others not because they deserve forgiveness, but because we deserve peace. Do you ever wonder why people volunteer to publicly forgive a transgressor in the name of someone else? They want to let it go. They want peace of mind. They don't want to think about it anymore. They wish people had played nicely, but since they didn't, they try to forgive, forgetting, of course, that forgiveness is the work for the one who was harmed, not for the one who's trying to be an upstander. So shared ministry needs to help people develop their muscles for forgiveness. We need to work on forgiving others for their transgressions and forgiving ourselves when we misstep. When we work so hard at being welcoming and creating a community that is intentionally diverse, there are lots of opportunities for forgiveness. So the 4 things that undermine the goal of shared ministry: binary thinking, confusing welcomes, a surface understanding of diversity, and a misunderstanding of the concept of forgiveness. So those are the barriers. What do we do to counter those barriers, or what might be done to counter those barriers? UU minister Robert Fulgham taught us that all we needed to know we learned in kindergarten. We can also learn a lot from the box of crayons that we got in kindergarten. Some are sharp, some are beautiful, some are dull, some have very weird names. All are different colors, and they all have to live in the same box. We must recognize that we are far more diverse than crayons. Race and ethnicity, gender, that's the obvious stuff. But then there is how you approach your work, head, heart, or hands. There is how you understand your world. Are you concrete or abstract in your thinking? How you order your ideas. Are you sequential or are you random? Are you conflict averse or a conflict seeker? Now, these options may sound like binary choices, one or the other, but actually they are points on a continuum. To move away from binary thinking, we need to embrace the gray and the ambiguous. We need to think spectrum, not toggle switch. When we are welcoming new members to our communities, along with the personal chalice that we give them, think about things we can give to help nurture their spirits. The body needs rest, nutrition, and exercise. So does the mind, so does the spirit. Among all the ministries that you desire to share, is there a balance so that people can get what they need? Mind, body, spirit, rest, nutrition, exercise. Instead of doing background checks to find out the professional skills that someone might have, if we think about gift-based ministry and let people serve with their interests and their gifts, not necessarily the skills they use for earning a living, ask folks what they need as well as what they would like to do. Ask about the gifts and talents they would like to use, not just the skills that they have. Shared leadership in the beloved community is a wonderful goal and a guarantee that something will go badly. A free and responsible search for truth. Sometimes the truth is going to hurt you, especially when it comes through people that you don't particularly like. So in building community, we must find the people that are worth being hurt by. If you are in relationship, you know you will be misunderstood, misquoted, and mistreated. Why you? Because that's how relationships work. If you are in community at this church, the important question to ask yourself is, are these people worth it? Is the community worth it? And I would guess probably so. So, my beloved friends, if you are going to hang out with people, you must learn to manage yourself and all the dynamics of diversity. My suggestion is that you not try to be the vessel that holds all of the pain and confusion and hurt. Rather, hold the vessel. Create and hold a vessel that is spacious enough to contain the love and the joy and the excitement of being a part of this great movement, along with all the other stuff that comes with it. Make space that can hold disparate ideas at the same time. Make space for hurt and disappointment and misunderstanding. In Taoism, we learn the concept of Wu Wei, the value of empty spaces. What makes a cup or a bowl or a wheel useful is not the substance of the thing, the ceramics, the porcelain, the metal, but the empty space that it creates. Wu Wei, be the space. We value highly our places of community, our sanctuaries, our fellowship halls, our parking lots. We need to spend more time on making brave space within these places. What is most important in life is not what we know and can prove, it is what we make space for. A heart space large enough to hold the love for those we know, those we like, and those we don't like, and those we don't even know. So don't try to get people to march in time to your drumbeat. Move with the rhythms of the universe and work to play nicely with everyone in the room. Shared leadership, it's tough and it's worth it.
We are a community that works for more than ourselves. This month we pledge 50% of our offerings to Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice, or CLEW. CLEW brings together clergy and lay leaders of all faiths with workers, immigrants, and low-income families in the cause of a just economy that works for all and protects those most vulnerable. Our second UU principle is justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, and the work of CLEW is committed to that UU principle. We also encourage you to give to the general fund for our church. We are not worshiping in our building, nor can any of the rooms on our campus be used by the many groups that have met there for years. So, if you are able, and we know some of you are not, please give. There are 3 ways to give: over text, through our website, or by mailing a check. Using your smartphone, text 844-982-0209 with the donation amount and the code for where the funds will be posted. To make a generous congregation contribution, use code GCC or use the QR code that you see on your screen. On our website, you can make a one-time donation or set up recurring payments for your pledge or another purpose. Your giving makes a big difference, and we thank you.
Maybe we're not the same color. Maybe we're not the same race. Maybe we don't have the same beliefs or live in the same kind of place.
Maybe we think we're too different. Maybe that's simply not true. Maybe I also have hopes and dreams, and maybe I share them with you. Share with you.
Oh, we are one nation, yes, we are one land. Together in freedom, united we stand. Oh, we are one nation, yes, we are one land. Together in freedom, united we stand. Oh, we are a rainbow of people. We are a rainbow of people. We have our own history. We have our own history. We share a nation with God. We share a nation with God. A nation where yes, we are one land. Together in freedom united we stand. Oh, we are one nation, yes, we are one land. Together in freedom united we stand. Oh, we are one nation, yes, we are one land. Together in freedom united we stand. Oh, we are one nation. We are one nation. We are one nation. Ah, one nation.
Where my free spirit onward leads, well, there shall be my way. By my own light illumined, I've journeyed night and day. My age-old time-worn cloak I wear, as once I wore my youth. I celebrate life's mystery. I celebrate death's truth. My family is not confined to mother, mate, and child, but it includes all creatures, be they tame or be they wild. My family upon this earth includes all living things, on land or in the ocean deep, or borne aloft on wings. The ever-spinning universe, well, there shall be my home. I sing and spin within it, as though this life I roam. Eternity is hard to ken, and harder still is this. A human life, when truly seen, is briefer than a kiss.
This service is over, and our service to the world continues. Go now, knowing that playing nicely, sharing leadership, sharing ministries is much easier when done together, and far more complicated and far messier than any of us would like. It's worth it, I think. So go find new ways to work together and to play nicely.